Ready to transform your health one step at a time?
Welcome to Small Steps, Big Changes, a journey into everyday fitness with Emma
And Adrian.
Hello and welcome to today's podcast with myself, Adrian, and my lovely wife, Emma.
We are going to talk about myths. So
What, like,
health, fitness myths.
I thought you meant like Greek mythology or something.
You know I love my history.
Yeah, history degree, by the way.
Don't use it.
Might today.
Doubt it.
Okay.
Who knows?
What are these gym myths then?
Let's start with spot reduction. So kind of how you can target a specific area to lose body fat.
Yeah.
Of how people will train crunches to obviously get a flat stomach, get abs, get a flat stomach, train legs because they want a thigh gap, and all that absolute nonsense.
Yeah, I think a lot of probably what we'll be doing myth-wise today, a lot of people will know, but some of these things still seem to linger quite a bit. I do actually get asked quite a lot in the gym, like, how do I get rid of this or get rid of this?
Yeah.
I've even I got asked once by someone which machine will get rid of my belly.
That is called a fat loss machine that they do during surgery. Liposuction.
What do you mean? It's just it's in a secret room. I didn't really know.
Yes.
I just said what we're about to say.
You can't.
Yeah, losing fat is a gradual process.
But it's not just that. I think the thing to say is that, yeah, it's a gradual process of losing fat, but you can't change where fat is stored, and therefore you can't change where you lose it from.
It falls off people in different ways, but ultimately you're just taking down a percentage of body fat. So if you want to see abs, you just need to lower your body fat. There isn't a machine that's going to magically do it.
No.
We all have abs anyway. They're just, you can't see them if you have in men it's probably about 18% body fat, where below you start to slightly see abs. If you want to have defined abs, you're sort of knocking more around the 12% and lower, which getting a bit unhealthy, but yeah. I know I bigged them up last time we did a podcast, but I always, because I get the newsletter and I always read it, Stronger by Science, so excellent. So I showed you that video, didn't I?
Yes.
Where he was talking about safe levels of percentage body fat and what's healthy. And for men, it actually, they were saying it sat between 18 and 22%.
Yes.
Was healthy. Yeah. And then down to 12%, there wasn't a noticeable difference in it. Was it morbidity or was it health outcomes? I can't remember. It was a large study. It was observing study. It wasn't randomized control trials. So data wise, it's got to be taken with a little bit of a pinch of salt. But if it was such a large data set, they took a lot of people to get that figure. And then below 12%, you're getting more towards a risky grey area.
I'm pretty sure they did say that when you're getting down to like that 12%, that there wasn't that much of a difference, but you were more at health risk.
Yeah, I think there's to some extent, but it wasn't really. I'd say, look, if you're knocking around at 14%, you probably look pretty good and you're probably quite healthy. And if you're knocking around at 12%, I'm sure you look excellent, and I don't think there'll be anything wrong with you. You're much better being at 12% than being at 30%,
But then the women's one was much higher than that. Yeah,
obviously. And I think that's something also that people might not know, is that just naturally those figures are always going to be higher because women have other areas of fat.
Yeah.
Boobs.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Brain.
Brain fat.
Just bigger brain.
Right.
Just said, because that was...
Yeah.
It's been a very long day.
Absolutely no sense. I enjoyed it. I can't remember what the ranges were.
I want to say the lower end was around 30%.
No, it was lower than that.
No, it wasn't, because we were then discussing, because I was like, oh, when I last checked mine, I was at like 21%, and it was
It was
nowhere near.
22. Well, we'll have to double check it, but I'm pretty sure it was around the early 20 mark, up to about 30-something% is a healthy range for women. I'll put a little link to it because it was really interesting.
Yeah, it was quite cool to watch. So the moral of the story basically is you can't target body fat in specific places. You've got to lose body fat, which another myth that goes quite well with that one is how if women lift weights, they're going to get bulky and they're going to get massive.
Yeah.
That's
still really prevalent, that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like, I can't say that I'm a weightlifter because I don't do like bodybuilding competition style weightlifting, but I lift weights. Like that is kind of that's what I do workout wise. And I am not massive. It's what I've always done. We've gone through it in like other podcast episodes. I don't do cardio. The only thing I do is weight training. And I am not huge.
No, there is obviously a level of a testosterone difference between men and women. Women do have testosterone, it's just at a lot lower level. Women have more estrogen than men. So that starting level of strength with testosterone makes men generally sort of stronger as an initial. You'll find that can actually, with training, can balance out strength-wise over time. Women can get really strong. And in general population training, where you're not talking athletes, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to go into a gym and see a 25-year-old female squatting the same amount as a 25-year-old male.
And I think with that's why I like doing weight training in the gym. Because, I mean, especially in our gym, I see a lot more younger females in there now.
Yeah, it's good.
And I'm not saying that I'm trying to be like the person that everybody strives to be, because I'm not. That's not the kind of person. But I want other younger females to look at me training and being in the area that's full of all the big scary men that, if you actually talk to them, are all like teddy bears and would do anything for you, can see that they can train that way and still get, well, it's the way to get the results that they're wanting to. Because let's face it, 9 times out of 10, women are wanting to grow the bum, get toned, look and feel better in themselves and feel stronger. You
say, obviously, like, you're not there as a role model as such, but in a way you are, because there's someone, there's always got to be someone to look up to. And like, we're going to get Andy on soon. Andy Gore, he's a powerlifter, really nice guy. We're going to chat to him about powerlifting and how he started training. But you look at him, and at his age, for his strength he has,
he's ridiculous.
And like, it's
incredible.
Nice to just go into, we're a big box gym, we're not like a specialized gym or anything, so it's nice to see people like that. For me, I like seeing people training like that inspires me. And it's the same thing if girls are coming in from school. We're 16 plus at our gym, so if girls are coming in from school and they don't really know what they're doing, I think it's great to see other girls training and looking like they know what they're doing. So that, I mean, we veered off a little bit from what we were saying, but ultimately it isn't just going to make you this massive
powerhouse.
She-Hulk. You can't grow massively without also feeding that growth. The average, what's recommended intake for a female, 2,000 calories.
Yeah, about 2,000.
It's, the variety of people, to have an actual set number is, you should go on your own individual numbers. But say you were at that figure and your maintenance was around 2,000 calories, you'd have to be smashing way more than 2,000 calories a day to put on serious actual muscle. No matter how you train, whether you're doing strength training or hypertrophy training, you're going to be talking like serious levels of food or steroids,
Yeah.
you're not just going to get really like
Jacked.
massive muscles. What will happen if you start training is you will become stronger, your bone density will increase,
You'll start losing body fat.
Depends on your diet, but
Well,
yeah, potentially you will lose body fat, you'll start to look more toned, and also I think it gains you massive confidence as well. I think it's a huge confidence boost. You feel mental clarity, you feel better about yourself.
And I think kind of going back to what you were saying about calories and obviously having to eat more, I think that's another thing that people don't kind of register a lot, is that they have this idea that to lose weight they have to kind of like not eat to an extent, and that they need this ridiculous calorie deficit. But the thing that they don't take into account is how just for your body to function, to digest, to breathe, to blink, swallow, every bodily function that happens like subconsciously, like an involuntary, you need calories for that. And you have a certain number of calories that, including like based on what job you do and how active you are in your job, you need a certain number of calories just to function.
When we're talking a BMR figure, which is your basal metabolic rate, that is the figure at which your body needs that amount of calories or energy to function on a daily basis without any other movement, exercise, whatever. Yeah. So that is literally your respiratory system, your cells to function, everything to function properly before you start including other things in that. That figure will just depend on your height and weight, really. Mm-hmm. There's a genetic element in there, people's metabolism, blah, blah, blah.
As a baseline.
Yeah, that figure shouldn't be what you put as your maintenance calories.
Yeah.
Maintenance calories then includes your activity.
Yeah.
So that's exercise and what you do outside of the gym as well. Mm-hmm. And that's how that figure is achieved. Then you work from there at deciding which way you want to go with it, whether you are eating maintenance calories, whether you're in a calorie surplus, which is where you're eating more calories, or whether you're in a calorie deficit, which is where you're cutting calories down. And I think if you're trying to lose weight, it is definitely a good way to go about calorie tracking.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for everyone.
No.
But I think even if it's something you're not willing to or not wanting to stick to long term, I think it's an eye-opener for a lot of people to actually start putting down everything that they've had during the day. Because
I mean, it was for me. I did not realise until I started really kind of wanting to lose that bit of body fat. Not that I needed to lose weight, but just so I could convert it to muscle and look and feel better in myself. Yeah, I didn't realise how much I physically consumed in a day. I mean, obviously in the beginning I was a bit like, this is torture. This is hell. All I can think about is food because I know I'm not allowed anything else because it's not within my calories. But then you kind of become accustomed to it and you're like, I don't need that extra slice of toast. I don't need to be putting that amount of butter on my bread that's humanly ridiculous amount.
So just on something you just said a second ago, I'm going to go on to another myth. So you said about converting.
Yeah.
So
swapping.
You can't change fat into muscle. That isn't a thing. You have to lose the fat. You can increase the muscle. You can actually do those two things simultaneously. It can be a lot harder than just trying to do one or the other, but there's a lot more recent research that says you can do both at the same time. And particularly what I call beginner gains. So if you're just starting out in weightlifting, you have this set window of time where you can exponentially just increase the amount of weights you are lifting and you will see really nice steady progress. You really want to make the most of that window, because when it runs out, which is different for different people, but it's generally about a year of lifting weights, you find that it becomes a lot trickier. You start to plateau a little bit, and to make physical changes becomes a bit harder.
Yeah. And I think part of like what you're saying about the whole like myth, where it comes from, of that people can convert fat to muscle, is to do with how like people's always weighed themselves and like, well, I'm not losing weight. And it's, well, you are and you're not. Like, yes, no, you're not losing physical weight that the scales say, but it's because you're losing body fat but then increasing muscle mass.
Yes. Another myth for you while we're on it: muscle weighs more than fat.
Oh, I love that one.
So it's the old, which weighs more, 1 ton of feathers or 1 ton of bricks?
Yeah, it's a ton.
They obviously weigh the same. It's not so much the fact that muscle weighs more, it can't weigh more.
No. It can only weigh what it weighs.
It's just that obviously if you're increasing muscle and reducing fat, the scales will change in some meaningful way.
So keeping kind of with the food style myths, there's also the great one that has been going for absolute years of carbs are bad for you, and carbs are the thing that makes you fat.
I think it was a big thing in the early 2000s when there was the Atkins
diet.
There are certain scenarios where cutting out carbs and going ketogenic may be beneficial. Those times are if your doctor tells you to do it.
Yeah, as with anything, if you're going to cut anything out, I mean, unless it's like allergy wise, I think it's important to note that if you are going to cut anything out of your diet that dramatically, that it needs to be under medical advice, monitored.
Yeah.
In a professional manner. You're not just kind of going, oh, I heard carbs are bad for me, as an example, I'm just going to cut them out of my diet. It's not the best way to go about healthy lifestyle.
You can cut carbs out and your body will start producing ketones, and that'll be your energy source. It's your body using fat instead of what is preferred source of energy, which is glucose from sugar, which is what carbohydrates are. Yep. They are chains of sugars. So you can cut them out safely. I would say it's person dependent. If you cut out carbs from your diet, you're cutting out a whole macro group, which will probably make you lose weight quite simply from the fact that you are taking a whole chunk of calories out of your diet that you're probably not replacing, because you're just going to be eating hopefully leafy greens and proteins. I wouldn't really recommend it as the way if you're trying to have a healthy diet and everything.
It's about balance.
Yeah, it's totally about balance. I don't think it's good to be able to talk about something if you haven't tried it.
Yeah.
And I have cut carbs out, and I cut carbs out for about 6 months. I wanted to know what it felt like, how I'd train. The answer really was train like shit. And I felt grumpy as hell. I was so grumpy. At the time I was working in an office, and I'd go out on my lunch break to train at the gym, and I'd come back in, and I'm sure loads of people who are watching and listening will be working in offices. People pass around biscuits, cakes. There's always a celebration. Someone's always got a birthday, or there's a wedding coming up, something that someone's always brought in their bakes, and they waft these things under your nose, and I'm like, no thank you please. And people are like, how have you got the willpower? And I'm like, I genuinely don't know. I actually want to kill someone right now. I haven't had any carbs in weeks, and honestly I actually want to strangle you. And that's how I felt without any carbs.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't know you back then, because I've known you grumpy when you're ill,
I don't know
or when you've lost your sense of smell and taste, so you can't taste and smell your coffee.
Oh, that's not good.
I am glad that I did not know you for those 6 months, because I don't think we've been together.
COVID sucked. That was horrible when things just tasted of nothing. When you made a nice lasagna for me and it just had a all I could describe it, warm and a slight essence of salt. That's all I was getting from it. Oh God, it's awful. Yeah. Never again, thanks. But back to carbs. That I think you can cut them out if you want to. There's no actual reason to really do it. This is very different to carb cycling. Mm-hmm. Carb cycling is a really important part of competition prep for bodybuilders. You will work the carbs around what you are doing. So generally on non-training days, you will have lower carbs, or you will have no carbs on non-training days. Then on training days, you'll probably have either a food around your training, or you might have a refeed day at some point in the week. But carb cycling is very different to completely cutting carbs out of your diet. You're basically trying to work your body in a different way, so you've got energy to train when you need to.
I think we've got a couple of other guests lined up, haven't we, that have done competition kind of performance. And
we'll be talking about more the performance side of nutrition a little bit in a bodybuilding kind of way, because I obviously have a nutrition background and I know a lot about nutrition, and if I was to comp prep someone, I'd probably be able to do it, but it's definitely not my speciality. It's not my area, because I think bodybuilding's a bit naff, but sorry, personal opinion. The whole tight little things and the tan and it's all a bit, it's not my jam.
No, to be fair, again, go into this probably a little bit more in the episode, but just how it's not really, from a female perspective, it's not really progressed ethically.
Sure. No, I get that.
It's not developed with how the rest of the world has.
Somewhat. Yeah. So, I think the carb thing, it's a personal choice. If you want to cut them out, go ahead. But honestly, I think you'll feel crap. Oh, and when I was talking about if your doctor recommends that you cut out carbs, it's generally for some kind of disease control. So it might be certain forms of cancer.
Diabetes.
Yeah, of course, for insulin, things like that. But it's a management of a disease rather than
a life choice.
Your doctor's not going to turn around and to tell you to do it to lose weight.
This next myth, I quite like the idea of, and there is a best time to work out to see the best results.
Okay.
Like in the morning, in the evening. Personally, I feel like there is a best time, and that is just whenever the gym is empty, because you will see the best results, because you can actually do your full workout.
Yeah.
That is the best time to work out.
There's a reasonable amount of research around this, and there are times of day when your body might be slightly stronger. That we're talking such minute differences that it is not worth planning that as your reason for when you're going to work out whatever form of work. I think
for us, we used to always work out in the evening, but then we've got to a point now where we're kind of like, I don't want to work out in the evening. I'd rather do it during the day, not because we're seeing better results working out during the day, but just because if we're working out in the evening, we're then wired and not wanting to go to bed until ridiculously late because we've worked out, we're pumped up.
Yeah.
So for us, it just doesn't work. For other people, it might be the ideal time, and that's when they feel best.
Plenty of people who can work out and sleep like a baby.
Yeah.
I feel very wired and alert if I've trained. The reason to set the time you work out is because you can fit it into your day.
Yeah.
And that
it works
should
for
be,
you.
Yeah, it's the sole reason.
And I think that's a good kind of thing to say, is that when people are wanting to work out and get healthier and have more energy, better lifestyle, don't see working out as a chore because you're trying to fit your day around your workout. You make your workout fit around you, and you do it because you've got a free hour, free half an hour, free 10 minutes.
Yeah, and the opposite to that, I'd say, is also don't use it as an excuse that you're going to set, oh, I get more gains in the evening, so I only train in the evening, but you never actually train because it doesn't fit your schedule. You're just going, I don't really want to train. That shouldn't be like the way you set up an excuse to not bother training.
So kind of going with that of optimal times to see best results, a myth that you have to work out every single day to see results.
Okay.
You don't need to go to the gym every single day. My workout plan that I'm currently following is 5 days a week. That didn't really work for me around work, home life, relationship. So I've reduced, like, kind of had a look at it, figure out which day works. I can kind of cut out and dropped it down to 4 days to fit my schedule. I don't work out every day, nor would I want to work out every day. I think it would force me to fall out of love with training because it would feel like a chore.
Yeah. So you can get really good results working out. It doesn't have to be, even more than a couple of days a week. You can get fairly decent results training a couple of times a week. I'd say if you've got a goal in mind where you're trying to get to a certain point and you've got a certain idea of how you want to look, maybe 3 is probably the minimum in terms of resistance training.
Yeah.
But if you're training because you enjoy it, or you're training for like what we talk about a lot, which is longevity and keeping yourself moving well into your old age, that can be 1 or 2 sessions a week of resistance training, as long as you're doing something that's well planned out, that's functional, that builds strength. It really doesn't need to have to be just constant all the time. Don't get me wrong, if you are trying to get really jacked and you want like Hollywood actor kind of body, you're going to have to train quite a lot. You're going to have to sacrifice a little bit if that's the outcome you want. Some people are quite genetically gifted and it comes to them quite easily. Some people have to really, really work. I mean, you're going to have to put in the cardio. Results like that don't just happen.
No, and I think that is the thing of, like, obviously kind of our community that we're building through podcast and clients and social media is the everyday person who realistically they're not going for that Hollywood actor physique. They're going for longevity. And a lot of the time, what you don't count into that whole working out every day to see results is if you walk to the shop instead of driving, obviously, if it's possible, gardening, everyday activities that you can kind of turn into a form of exercise.
There's things that I think people cheat themselves a little bit out of. Even something as simple as, like, don't park right next to the supermarket doors.
Yeah.
Park over the other side of the car park. If you tend not to have much movement in your day, those steps can make a real difference.
Yeah.
Like, try and make those moments. And, like, if you're at work and you've got a lift, use the stairs. Just stuff like that, just simple stuff can make a massive difference.
Yeah, because I mean, well, kind of our mantra that is progress over perfection. Like, you don't need to be doing everything exactly how the book says. Of people think that you have to work out every day, you have to cut carbs out, certain areas to lose fat, and that's not realistic, and it's not to an extent humanly possible for everything. But just making small changes to every day, rather than being like, make small changes of just gradually try and bring yourself down to that 2,000 calories. Once you've got that and you feel comfortable, like, do you know what, I'm fine eating 2,000 calories a day, are comfortable with that, I'm always full, I'm not really thinking about food, then think about changing what you're eating to improve of healthier options. And
you can set your ambitions a bit too high when you make a decision to make a change, and it is about making those little small things. A lot of our coaching is based on little small habit changes, and it's more about the education around food rather than saying to someone, you've gone from not even understanding what protein, carbs and fats are and what they actually do, to here you go, you're now going to eat this amount of calories a day. It's not realistic. You need to be taught to understand that. It's something that's really lacking in school education. I don't know whether it's improved. Like, it's a long time since I've been at school. I don't know whether they've got better at that, but there was wasn't even vaguely taught. I know stuff because I've learned it after school. There's, stuff that I know from my own education, not from school education. I was never taught about macros. I was never taught the difference between protein, carbs, fat, even in biology.
No.
When you're learning stuff that has no practical use when you move on into the real world, and yet you're not taught the basics of how to cook. So in Japan, they have this thing where school meals have a certain amount of the school meal has to be prepped with produce that is from the local area. They're educated on the background of where the food comes from. Like, there's so much nutritional information, and they're learning to cook. They're learning about ingredients, and they take that with them into life. And most people in Japan just know how to cook because they've learned about it in school, the importance of the ingredients, which then obviously goes on sustainability and all kinds of other things that are really positive. And that's something that's sorely lacking in this country.
I think that's the thing of, it's not just lacking in this country, it is lacking in most of Western world.
Yeah.
It's just not something that particularly care about.
Yeah. And that's obviously, that has knock-on effects on the level of obesity in countries. Mm-hmm. It has a knock-on effect on food sustainability, climate change. This is a whole other topic that we'll go off on in another podcast.
I think on that note, we should probably leave that one there. We've covered quite a few of the common myths.
Yeah, if there's any you guys can think of, feel free to drop in the comments, and there's at least another whole episode to be made out of myths and
so
nutrition and gym myths.
If there's anything that you want us to cover on the podcast, like that you'd like us to chat about, or see if we've got somebody in the gym or can find somebody who's specialised in a certain field that you'd like for us to have on as a guest, drop it in the comments, messages, and we'll try and figure something out.
Thanks very much for listening, and if you are watching, thanks for watching. I've been Adrian.
And I've been Emma.
Thank you very much, guys.
Bye.
Bye.